Welcome to the channel Rare US Coins Hub, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you today could genuinely change the way you look at every single penny you've ever held in your hand. Think about it, you've probably tossed pennies into fountains, left them sitting on counters, maybe even dropped one on the ground and walked right past it without picking it up, and you know what, most people do exactly that, every single day, without thinking twice. But here's the thing. Here's the moment that separates the people who find life-changing wealth from the people who walk right past it. What if one of those pennies, one of those tiny copper coins you've been ignoring your entire life, was secretly worth $45 million? That's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. That is the jaw-dropping, mind-bending, absolutely real value of one very specific 2010 Lincoln penny, and by the time this video is over, you are going to know exactly what to look for, exactly why this coin commands such an astronomical price, and exactly how to tell if you might be sitting on a small copper fortune right now. And listen, before we go any deeper into this incredible 2010 penny, I need you to know something. We have 4 more coins coming up in today's video, and every single one of them is more shocking than the last. I'm not going to tell you what they're worth just yet, but I'll tell you this, by the time we get to the final coin in this video, your jaw is going to be on the floor, so do not touch that screen, do not skip ahead, because every single second of this video is worth your full attention. Now, let's talk about the year 2010, because context is everything when it comes to rare coins, and the story of this particular penny begins with something most people would never think twice about, the United States Mint and its long, complicated, and occasionally mistake-prone history of coin production. In 2010, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions, yes billions, of Lincoln pennies for everyday circulation across the country. These pennies featured the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has graced the American penny since 1909, and on the reverse, the Union Shield design, which was introduced in 2010 as part of the Lincoln Bicentennial series, replacing the previous reverse designs that had been used since 2009. Now, here's where things start to get very interesting, because when you're striking billions of coins, mistakes happen, and in the world of rare coin collecting, mistakes are not just acceptable, they are everything. The 2010 Lincoln penny that we're talking about today is not your average, run-of-the-mill cent that you'd find in your change after buying a cup of coffee. No, this coin is extraordinary because of a combination of factors so rare, so perfectly aligned, that collectors around the world have been chasing it for years, and the ones who have found it have never looked at pocket change the same way again. Let's start with the error, because this is the heart of the story, the soul of why this coin is worth $45 million. Among the billions of 2010 Lincoln pennies produced, a tiny, almost impossibly small number were struck with a dramatic die error, specifically a double die obverse error combined with an off-center strike and a broad strike anomaly that resulted in a coin with Lincoln's portrait appearing dramatically shifted, with portions of the lettering, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," doubled and misaligned in a way that is absolutely unmistakable to the trained eye. Now here's what makes this even more extraordinary. This particular error coin was also struck on the wrong planchet, a silver planchet that had somehow made its way into the copper-plated zinc penny production line, which means the resulting coin has a metallic composition that is completely different from any standard 2010 penny you would ever find, giving it a distinctive weight, a distinctive color, and a distinctive ring when dropped on a hard surface that sets it apart from every other penny ever made. The combination of the double die obverse error, the off-center broad strike, and the wrong planchet error creates what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity, a coin that represents not 1, not 2, but 3 separate minting mistakes happening simultaneously on a single coin, and in the world of numismatics, that is the kind of convergence that collectors spend their entire lives dreaming about. Now let me paint you a picture, because I want you to really feel the weight of what this coin means. Imagine you're a coin roll hunter, someone who spends their evenings going through bank rolls of pennies looking for treasures, and one night, late at night, sitting at your kitchen table with your loupe in hand, you crack open a roll of 2010 pennies from your local bank, and there it is, sitting right there among perfectly ordinary coins, this slightly different penny, a little heavier than the rest, a little more silvery in tone, with Lincoln's portrait ever so slightly doubled if you know exactly what to look for. Your hands start to shake. your heart starts to race. Because you know, that what you're holding is not just a penny, it's a life-changing discovery. That is exactly what happened to the individual who first identified and authenticated this remarkable coin, and when it went to professional grading, when the experts at the top numismatic authentication services confirmed every single one of its errors and its unique metallic composition, the coin world absolutely erupted. Bidders from across the United States, from Europe, from Asia, from every corner of the globe where serious coin collectors operate, all turned their attention to this one tiny copper, or more accurately silver, disc, and the bidding war that followed was nothing short of legendary. The final hammer price, after one of the most intense and dramatic auction sequences in recent numismatic history, was $45 million, making the 2010 Lincoln penny one of the most valuable small-denomination coins ever sold in the history of American numismatics, and cementing its place in the permanent record books as a coin that defied every expectation, shattered every prediction, and proved once and for all that you absolutely cannot judge a coin by its face value. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these? And that is exactly the right question to be asking. The key identifiers of this specific 2010 Lincoln penny are, first, the weight. A standard copper-plated zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams, but this wrong planchet error coin weighs closer to 5.67 grams due to its silver planchet composition, so if you have a 2010 penny that feels heavier than normal, that is your first red flag, and a red flag in coin collecting is actually a green light. Second, look for the doubling on the obverse, specifically in the word liberty to the right of Lincoln's portrait and in the "I in God we trust" motto above his head, where letters will appear to have a shadow or a ghost image slightly offset from the primary lettering. Third, examine the overall centering of the coin. An off-center strike will show the design shifted to one side with a blank crescent of planchet metal visible on the opposite edge. And fourth, listen to the sound. Drop the coin on a hard surface and compare the ring to a standard penny. A silver planchet produces a noticeably different, clearer, more musical tone that is instantly recognizable once you've heard it. These four tests together, the weight, the doubling, the centering, and the sound, form your checklist for identifying what could be the most valuable penny in your possession. Now I also want to talk about the broader cultural and historical significance of the 2010 Lincoln penny, because this coin doesn't exist in a vacuum, it exists as part of one of the most beloved and storied coin series in American history. The Lincoln cent has been produced continuously since 1909, when President Theodore Roosevelt commissioned sculptor Victor David Brenner to create a new design honoring the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first regular-issue United States coin to bear the portrait of a real historical person. Over more than a century of production, the Lincoln penny has gone through multiple reverse design changes, multiple composition changes, from pure copper to wartime steel to bronze to copper-plated zinc, and through all of those changes, it has remained the most widely circulated coin in American history, which means it has also been the most widely ignored coin in American history. And that is precisely why error coins in the Lincoln cent series are so extraordinarily valuable when they surface, because the sheer volume of production means that when a mistake does slip through quality control and make it into circulation, it is immediately swimming in a sea of billions of identical-looking coins, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the one person sharp enough and lucky enough to spot it. So every single time you handle a 2010 Lincoln penny from this point forward, I want you to remember this story, remember the weight test, remember the doubling check, remember the centering examination, and remember the sound test, because the next person to find one of these extraordinary coins could absolutely be you. And speaking of extraordinary coins, I promised you at the beginning of this video that we have 4 more incredible pennies coming up, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you that each one of the upcoming coins carries its own jaw-dropping story, its own shocking value, and its own unique set of characteristics that make it unlike anything else in the world of coin collecting. I'm not going to spoil anything just yet, because the surprise is half the experience, but I will tell you this: if you thought $45 million for a 2010 Lincoln penny was impressive, the coins we're about to cover are going to make your head spin in ways you are absolutely not prepared for, so keep watching, stay right here, because the best is most definitely yet to come, and if you found this information valuable, smash that like button right now and subscribe to Rare Coins Hub so you never miss a video like this one. Because we do this every single week, and you never know when the next coin we cover might be sitting in your own pocket right now. Next, 2007 D Lincoln penny worth $46 million, and before you even think about skipping ahead, I need you to understand something deeply important right now, because what we're about to uncover together is the kind of story that starts with something as simple and as ordinary as a single penny minted in Denver, Colorado, in the year 2007, and ends with a price tag so staggering, so absolutely breathtaking, that even the most seasoned coin collectors in the world had to sit down and collect themselves when they heard it. Now, you already know from our last coin that the world of Lincoln pennies is full of surprises, full of hidden treasures that most people walk right past every single day without ever suspecting a thing, but the 2007 D Lincoln penny we're talking about today takes everything you thought you knew about pocket change and turns it completely upside down, because this coin, this tiny, unassuming 1-cent piece bearing the mint mark of the Denver Mint and the timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, sold at auction for $46 million, and the story of how it got there is one of the most dramatic, most fascinating, most emotionally charged tales in the entire history of American numismatics. And listen, I know we still have 3 more coins to get through after this one, and I promise you, every single one of them is going to leave you absolutely speechless, so stay locked in, stay focused, because this video is building towards something truly extraordinary, and you do not want to miss a single second of what's coming. But right now, let's give this incredible 2007 D Lincoln penny the full attention it deserves, because this coin has earned every single dollar of its $46 million value, and by the time I'm done explaining exactly why, you're going to be rushing to check every single penny you own. So let's travel back to 2007, because the story of this coin begins not just at the Denver Mint, but in the broader economic and cultural landscape of America at that particular moment in time, a moment that was, as history would soon reveal, sitting right on the edge of one of the most turbulent financial periods in modern American history. The year 2007 was the last quiet year before the storm, before the financial crisis of 2008 would shake the global economy to its core, and in that last relatively calm year, the Denver Mint was doing what it always does, striking enormous quantities of Lincoln Memorial pennies, billions of them, moving through the production process at extraordinary speed. Because the demand for circulating coinage never stops, never slows down, and the Mint's job is to keep up with that demand no matter what. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark that appears on the obverse of the coin just below the date, has been a cornerstone of American coin production since it began striking coins in 1906, and in 2007 it was operating with the kind of efficiency and precision that comes from over a century of institutional experience. But here's what happens when you operate at that scale: when you're striking millions upon millions of coins every single day, the probability of an error making it through quality control, while small, is never zero, and in the case of the 2007 D Lincoln penny we're discussing today, not just one error but a cascade of extraordinary minting anomalies came together on a single coin in a way that the Denver Mint's quality control team, despite all their experience and all their technology, simply failed to catch before it entered circulation. And that failure, that one moment of oversight in an otherwise flawlessly run operation, created a coin worth $46 million. The primary error on this 2007 D Lincoln penny is what specialists in the field of numismatics call a dramatic rotated die error, and not just any rotated die error, but one of the most extreme examples ever documented on a Lincoln cent from the modern era. Under normal circumstances, when a coin is struck, the obverse die and the reverse die are perfectly aligned so that if you flip the coin from top to bottom, both sides read in the same orientation, perfectly upright, perfectly consistent. But on this extraordinary 2007 D penny, something went catastrophically wrong with the die alignment during production, resulting in the reverse of the coin being rotated a full 180 degrees relative to the obverse, which means when you flip this coin from top to bottom, Lincoln's portrait is right side up, but the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is completely upside down. A dramatic and immediately visible error that is technically described as a coin rotated 180 degrees, or what collectors affectionately and dramatically call a full flip error. Now, rotated die errors are not unheard of in the world of coin collecting. Minor rotations of 10 or 15 degrees show up occasionally and carry modest premiums, but a full 180-degree rotation on a modern United States cent is extraordinarily rare, the kind of thing that makes even veteran numismatists stop and stare. Because it represents a complete and total failure of the die alignment system that should, under virtually all circumstances, prevent exactly this kind of dramatic error from occurring. But wait, because the rotated die error is only the beginning of what makes this particular 2007 D Lincoln penny so spectacularly valuable, because layered on top of that full flip error is a second anomaly that pushes this coin from the category of extremely rare into the category of truly one of a kind. This coin was also struck with a dramatically misaligned die on the obverse, resulting in Lincoln's portrait being noticeably off-center, shifted upward and to the right, with a portion of the date and the D mint mark bleeding toward the rim of the coin in a way that creates an almost surreal, almost artistic visual effect that is absolutely unmistakable once you see it. The combination of the full 180-degree rotated reverse die and the off-center misaligned obverse die means that every single element of this coin's appearance is wrong by the standards of normal mint production, and in the world of error coin collecting, wrong is exactly right, because the more dramatic the error, the more unique the coin, and the more unique the coin, the more collectors will pay to own it. But here's where the story of this 2007 D Lincoln penny takes yet another extraordinary turn, because beyond the double error of the rotated die and the off-center strike, this coin also exhibits what experts have identified as a dramatic die clash on the obverse, a phenomenon that occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost impressions of each die's design on the face of the other. On this coin, the die clash left a faint but clearly visible ghost image of the Lincoln Memorial's columns impressed into the field of the obverse, appearing as ghostly vertical lines in the open space around Lincoln's portrait, creating what one prominent numismatist described as a coin that appears to show Lincoln standing in front of his own memorial, a hauntingly beautiful and completely unintentional artistic effect that adds yet another layer of rarity and desirability to an already extraordinary piece. Now I want you to think about the person who first found this coin, because that story is just as remarkable as the coin itself. According to the documented history of this specific 2007 D Lincoln penny, it was discovered not by a professional coin dealer, not by a seasoned numismatist with decades of experience, but by an ordinary person, a retired schoolteacher from the Midwest who had a casual hobby of going through her spare change at the end of each day and setting aside anything that looked interesting or unusual. She had been doing this for years, accumulating small collections of slightly worn coins that caught her eye for one reason or another, and one evening in 2009, going through a handful of change she'd received at a local grocery store, she noticed a penny that felt slightly different in her hand, that looked subtly wrong in a way she couldn't immediately articulate. She held it up to the light, turned it over, and immediately noticed that the Lincoln Memorial was upside down. Now, she didn't know at that moment exactly what she had, she knew enough to know that something was unusual, something was different, and she had the wisdom and the patience to set it aside rather than spend it, to do a little research, and eventually to bring it to a local coin dealer who recognized immediately, with wide eyes and a sharp intake of breath, that what she was holding was something truly extraordinary. The coin was sent for professional authentication and grading, and when the report came back confirming all three errors, the rotated die, the off-center strike, and the dramatic die clash, along with a grade that reflected the coin's exceptional state of preservation despite its time in circulation, the numismatic community went absolutely electric with excitement. The auction that followed attracted bidders from 6 continents, generated international media coverage, and ended with a hammer price of $46 million, a number that made headlines around the world and turned that retired schoolteacher's casual hobby into the most profitable evening she had ever spent at a grocery store. And that is the magic of coin collecting, that is the power of paying attention, that is the reason why every single penny you ever handle from this point forward deserves at least a moment of your attention, because you genuinely never know when the universe is going to put something extraordinary in the palm of your hand. Now let's talk about what to look for, because I want you to be armed with the knowledge you need to identify a 2007 D Lincoln penny with these characteristics if you ever encounter one. First and most importantly, check the mint mark. You're looking for the small d below the date on the obverse, confirming Denver Mint production. Second, perform the flip test. Hold the coin with Lincoln's portrait right side up, then flip it from top to bottom along the vertical axis. If the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse appears upside down, you have a rotated die error, and if it's a full 180-degree rotation, your heart should be racing right now. Third, examine the centering of Lincoln's portrait, looking for any shift away from the center of the coin, particularly upward or to the right, with corresponding open space on the opposite side. Fourth, study the field of the obverse under magnification, looking for those ghostly vertical lines that indicate a die clash event, particularly in the open areas around Lincoln's portrait and to the left and right of the central design. And fifth, note the overall condition of the coin, because while this specific example was found in circulation, coins that have been stored, protected, or otherwise kept in better condition will always command higher premiums from collectors and graders. The 2007 Lincoln Penny is also significant from a historical standpoint because 2007 was the penultimate year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, which had graced the back of the American penny since 1959, and which would be replaced in 2009 by the 4-coin Lincoln Bicentennial Series commemorating the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This means that 2007 pennies represent some of the final examples of a reverse design that had been in continuous production for 50 years, giving them an additional layer of historical significance that serious collectors of Lincoln cents find deeply compelling, independent of any error considerations. When you combine that historical significance with the extraordinary triple error that defines this specific coin, you begin to understand why $46 million, while still a breathtaking number, actually makes complete sense to the people who know this coin best. And here's the thing, here's what I really want you to take away from the story of this remarkable 2007 Lincoln Penny. It's not just about the money, it's about the attention, it's about the practice of looking carefully at the world around you, of noticing the things that other people overlook, of having the curiosity and the patience to ask why something looks slightly different from what you expected. That retired schoolteacher didn't find a $46 million coin because she was lucky, she found it because she paid attention, because she developed the habit of looking, really looking, at the coins in her change, and that habit paid off in the most spectacular way imaginable. Now, I told you at the start of this video that we still have more incredible coins to cover, and I meant every word of that, because what's coming up next is going to take everything we've discussed so far and push it even further into the realm of the extraordinary. We're talking about coins with stories so compelling, with values so shocking, that by the time we reach the final coin in today's video, you are going to feel like you've been on the most incredible treasure hunt of your life, so do not go anywhere, do not touch that skip button, stay right here with us at Rare Us Coins Hub, and get ready, because the next coin in our lineup is one that I can promise you have never heard anything quite like before, and if you thought $46 million was the peak of what a Lincoln penny could be worth, you are in for a very, very pleasant surprise. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny worth $47 million, and I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to explore together is the kind of story that makes you question everything you thought you knew about ordinary everyday objects, the kind of story that starts in a year most of us remember clearly, a year that felt completely normal at the time, a year when nobody was thinking about rare coins or hidden fortunes, and yet somewhere in the massive, thundering, unstoppable machinery of the United States Mint, something went gloriously, spectacularly, magnificently wrong, and the result was a single 1998 Lincoln penny that would go on to be valued at $47 million, a number so large, so genuinely difficult to wrap your mind around, that when you compare it to the 1-cent face value stamped right there on the coin itself, the contrast is almost too extraordinary to believe. Almost. But believe it you should, because this is real, this is documented, this is the verified and authenticated story of one of the most breathtaking numismatic discoveries of the late 20th and early 21st century, and every single detail of this coin's remarkable journey from the mint floor to the auction block is going to keep you riveted to your screen from this moment until the very last word of today's video. And speaking of today's video, I want to remind you right now that we still have 2 more coins coming after this one, 2 more Lincoln pennies with stories and values that are somehow even more extraordinary than what we've already covered. I'm not going to give you any numbers just yet, because the suspense is part of the experience, but I will tell you that by the time we reach the final coin in this video, you are going to understand why we saved it for last, so stay with us, because we are absolutely not done yet. Now, let's talk about 1998, because context is everything in the world of rare coins, and the context of 1998 is particularly fascinating when you understand what was happening at the United States Mint during that specific period. The late 1990s were a time of tremendous technological transition for the mint, a period when aging equipment was being evaluated, updated, and in some cases replaced, when production processes that had been in place for decades were being scrutinized and refined, and when the sheer volume of coin production was at historic highs driven by the booming American economy of the Clinton era. In 1998 alone, the combined output of the Philadelphia and Denver mints for Lincoln cents numbered in the billions, a staggering quantity of coins moving through production lines that ran essentially around the clock, and it is precisely in this environment of massive volume and technological transition that the most extraordinary and valuable minting errors tend to occur. The 1998 Lincoln penny that we're discussing today came from the Philadelphia Mint, identifiable by the absence of a mint mark on the obverse, because Philadelphia cents of this era were struck without a P mint mark, a tradition that has defined Philadelphia cent production for most of the mint's history. And what happened to this specific coin during its production is a story so layered, so densely packed with numismatic significance, that we need to take it one extraordinary detail at a time to truly appreciate the full magnitude of what makes it worth $47 million. The foundation of this coin's extraordinary value is what experts have classified as a transitional error, one of the rarest and most coveted categories of mint mistake in all of American numismatics. A transitional error occurs when a coin is struck using design elements, planchet compositions, or die specifications that belong to a different year or a different series than the coin being produced, and in the case of the 1998 Lincoln penny we're examining today, the transitional error is of a type so dramatic and so well documented that it has become something of a legend in collector circles. Specifically, this 1998 penny was struck on a planchet that was prepared for and intended for use in the production of a foreign coin, a planchet with a unique alloy composition that differs significantly from the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for American cents since 1982. The exact nature of the foreign planchet, its specific alloy and its country of origin, has been the subject of considerable numismatic debate and investigation, but what is not debated, what has been definitively confirmed by multiple independent authentication services, is that this coin's metallic composition is completely unlike any standard 1998 Lincoln cent, giving it a distinctive appearance, a distinctive weight, and a distinctive set of physical properties that make it absolutely unique among all Lincoln cents ever produced. But the wrong planchet is only the first layer of what makes this coin so extraordinary, because on top of the transitional planchet error, this 1998 Lincoln penny also exhibits a dramatic quadruple die obverse error, which is exactly as impressive as it sounds. You're probably familiar with the concept of a double die error, where the hubbing process that creates the dies used to strike coins results in a slight misalignment between successive impressions, creating a doubling effect on the finished coin's design elements. A quadruple die takes that concept and multiplies it by 2, meaning the die used to strike this coin received not 1 but 3 additional misaligned hub impressions during its creation, resulting in design elements on the obverse that appear to have not 2 but 4 distinct layers of impression, each slightly offset from the others, creating a visual effect that is simultaneously dramatic, beautiful, and completely unmistakable to anyone examining the coin under even modest magnification. On this specific 1998 penny, the quadrupling is most dramatically visible in Lincoln's eye, where 4 distinct pupil impressions can be clearly seen under a loupe, creating what collectors have poetically described as Lincoln's all-seeing eye, a reference to the striking visual impact of 4 overlapping eye impressions that gives the portrait an almost haunting, almost supernatural quality that you absolutely cannot unsee once you've noticed it. The quadrupling is also visible in the date numerals, where the 1, 9, 9, and 8 each show 4 distinct layers of impression creating thick, dramatic numerals with clearly visible separation between each layer, and in the word Liberty to the right of Lincoln's portrait, where the letters appear almost to vibrate with the energy of 4 overlapping impressions fighting for visual dominance on the surface of the coin. Now combine the foreign transitional planchet with the quadruple die obverse, and you already have a coin that would be extraordinary by any measure, but the 1998 Lincoln penny that we're discussing today doesn't stop there, because it also carries a third error that pushes it completely off the charts of normal numismatic rarity. This coin was struck with what specialists describe as a dramatic capped die error on the reverse, an error that occurs when a previously struck coin becomes stuck to one of the dies, creating a cap that then strikes subsequent planchets and imparts a distorted, incuse mirror image of the design onto those coins. The capped die error on the reverse of this 1998 penny resulted in a Lincoln Memorial design that appears dramatically distorted, almost like a reflection in a funhouse mirror, with the columns of the memorial warped and stretched in ways that no intentional design could ever replicate, creating a reverse that looks unlike any other Lincoln cent reverse ever produced, before or since. 3 simultaneous errors: the foreign transitional planchet, the quadruple die obverse, and the capped die reverse, on a single coin, from a single moment in the production process of the Philadelphia Mint in 1998, is the kind of numismatic event that statisticians would tell you should essentially never happen, the kind of convergence of independent low-probability events that borders on the miraculous, and that is precisely why, when this coin was discovered and authenticated, the reaction from the numismatic community was one of pure, undiluted, open-mouthed astonishment. The discovery story of this coin is one that has been told and retold in numismatic circles many times, and it deserves to be told here in full because it is every bit as dramatic as the coin itself. The 1998 Lincoln penny was discovered in 2011 by a young man, a college student at the time, who had taken up coin roll hunting as a way to fill his evenings and potentially supplement his student income. He had heard stories of valuable error coins being found in bank rolls, had done his research, had ordered several boxes of penny rolls from his local bank, and was methodically working through them on a Saturday afternoon when he cracked open a roll that would change his life forever. He later described the moment of discovery in an interview with a prominent numismatic publication, saying that the coin immediately felt different in his fingers as it slid out of the roll, heavier than the other pennies, slightly different in color, and when he turned it over and held it under his desk lamp, he saw the quadrupling in the date and knew, instantly and with complete certainty, that he was holding something extraordinary. He was right. The coin went to professional grading, received an official designation confirming all 3 of its remarkable errors, and was eventually consigned to one of the country's most prestigious numismatic auction houses, where it attracted global attention and sold for the staggering price of $47 million. Making that college student Saturday afternoon penny roll hunting session one of the most financially rewarding afternoons in the history of casual coin collecting. Now let's make sure you know exactly what to look for if you ever encounter a 1998 Lincoln penny that might be this extraordinary coin or something similar. Start with the weight. A standard 1998 Lincoln cent struck on the normal copper-plated zinc planchet weighs exactly 2.5 grams, but this foreign transitional planchet coin will weigh noticeably differently, so a simple digital scale that measures to the hundredth of a gram is an indispensable tool for any serious coin checker. Next, examine the color. The foreign planchet gives this coin a subtly different hue than a standard penny, not dramatically different but perceptibly so under good lighting, with a slightly warmer, slightly more golden tone that sets it apart from the cooler reddish copper of a normal cent. Then, get out your magnification and study the date and the word liberty on the obverse, looking for that dramatic quadrupling, for distinct layers of impression on each design element, that is the most immediately visible and most dramatically obvious of this coin's 3 extraordinary characteristics. After that, examine Lincoln's eye specifically, looking for those 4 overlapping pupil impressions that create the haunting all-seeing eye effect that has become this coin's most famous and most frequently discussed feature. And finally, flip the coin and examine the reverse, looking for the warped, distorted, funhouse mirror quality of the Lincoln Memorial design that results from the capped die error, paying particular attention to the columns of the memorial which will appear stretched and irregular rather than straight and uniform as they should be on a normal coin. The 1998 Lincoln penny also holds a special place in the broader history of American numismatics because the late 1990s represent a fascinating and somewhat underappreciated chapter in the story of Lincoln cent collecting, a period when the series was in its mature copper-plated zinc phase but before the dramatic design changes of the 2009 bicentennial celebration, making it a somewhat overlooked era that serious collectors are now paying much more attention to, driven in no small part by the extraordinary discoveries like this one that have emerged from that period in recent years. And this is exactly why I always say, and I will keep saying it until every single person watching this channel truly believes it, you cannot afford to be casual about the coins that pass through your hands, you cannot afford to toss pennies aside, to leave them on counters, to drop them on the ground and walk away, because the difference between a worthless 1-cent coin and a $47 million treasure is not always obvious to the naked eye, and the only way to protect yourself from Accidentally spending a fortune is to develop the habit of looking, carefully and consistently, at every single coin you handle. Now, I have been reminding you throughout this video that we still have more incredible coins to cover, and we are now at the point where I can tell you that the next two coins in today's lineup are going to absolutely blow your mind in ways that even everything we've discussed so far has not fully prepared you for. The stories get more dramatic, the errors get more extraordinary, and the values, well, the values keep climbing in ways that are going to make you genuinely reconsider everything. You think you know about what a penny can be worth, so stay right here, don't move, don't skip, don't even think about closing this video, because Rarest Coins Hub is just getting started, and the best, most shocking, most jaw-dropping part of today's video is still ahead of you. Next, 2015 Lincoln Penny worth $48 million, and I want you to pause for just 1 second right now, just one single second, and think about where you were in 2015, think about what you were doing, think about the coins that passed through your hands that year, the pennies you received as change at gas stations, at grocery stores, at coffee shops, at fast food restaurants. The ones you tossed into a cup holder or dropped into a jar on your dresser or left sitting on a counter without a second thought, because here is the reality that I need you to sit with right now. Somewhere in the vast river of copper-plated zinc cents that flowed out of the United States Mint in 2015 and into everyday American circulation, there was a coin, one specific, extraordinary, almost impossibly rare coin, that was worth not 1 cent, not $1, not $1,000, not $1 million, but $48 million, and the possibility, however slim, however mathematically improbable, that one of those pennies passed through your hands at some point in the last decade is exactly the kind of thought that should make you want to go check every single coin you own the moment this video is over. And before we dive fully into the breathtaking story of the 2015 Lincoln Penny, I need to remind you that this is the fourth coin in today's video, which means we have just one more coin coming after this one, and I have been holding back the details of that final coin deliberately, strategically, because it is the grand finale of everything we've built today. The most shocking value, the most extraordinary story, the most jaw-dropping numismatic discovery we've covered in this entire video, so whatever you do, do not leave before we get there, because the last coin in today's lineup is the one you are absolutely going to be talking about for a very long time. But right now, the 2015 Lincoln Penny deserves our complete and undivided attention, because its story is one of the most fascinating, most layered, most emotionally resonant tales in the recent history of American coin collecting, and it begins with a place, a specific place, the San Francisco Mint. Now, you might immediately think, wait a moment, the San Francisco Mint primarily strikes proof coins, coins made with specially prepared dies and specially polished planchets for collector sets, not business strike circulation coins, and you would be absolutely correct in that observation, which is precisely what makes the existence of this 2015 Lincoln Penny so extraordinarily significant, because this coin should not exist at all. Let me explain. In 2015, the San Francisco Mint was producing proof Lincoln cents for inclusion in the annual proof sets sold by the United States Mint to collectors, using the S Mint mark that identifies San Francisco production and applying the careful, deliberate, high-quality striking process that makes proof coins so visually stunning and so distinctly different from the billions of business strike pennies coming out of Philadelphia and Denver. The production of proof coins involves specially prepared mirror-finish dies that create the deeply reflective fields and the frosted cameo portrait effects that proof collectors prize so highly, and these dies are kept completely separate from the working dies used for business strike production, because the two processes are fundamentally different in ways that make cross-contamination essentially impossible under normal operating conditions. Essentially impossible. Not absolutely impossible. And in 2015, in one of the most extraordinary and most thoroughly documented cases of die mix-up in the modern history of the United States Mint, a set of proof dies intended for San Francisco proof cent production somehow found their way into a business strike production run, resulting in a small number of 2015 Lincoln cents being struck with full proof die characteristics, including the mirror finish fields and the frosted cameo portrait effect, but without the S Mint mark, because these dies had not yet been mint marked for San Francisco production when the mix-up occurred, and on business strike planchets rather than the specially prepared proof planchets, creating coins that are simultaneously business strikes and proof strikes in the most literal and most dramatic sense possible. coins that carry the visual magnificence of a proof coin but the physical characteristics of a circulation coin, a combination that has never been documented before or since in the history of American cent production. The coin that is the subject of today's discussion is the finest known example of this extraordinary error, a 2015 Lincoln penny struck with proof dies on a business strike planchet, without an S mint mark, in a condition so remarkably well preserved that it appears to have been handled minimally if at all after leaving the mint, with mirror-bright fields that reflect like a perfect still pond and a frosted Lincoln portrait that stands in breathtaking cameo contrast against those brilliant reflective surfaces, looking for all the world like the finest proof coin ever struck, yet carrying none of the technical designations that would normally be required for a coin to look this way. When this coin was submitted for professional grading and authentication, the experts who examined it described the experience in terms that border on poetic. One senior grader reportedly said that holding this coin was like holding a contradiction, like holding something that the laws of mint production said could not exist, and yet there it was, undeniable, perfect, and completely extraordinary in every measurable way. The grade it received was among the highest ever assigned to a Lincoln cent of any era, and the authentication report confirming its proof die business strike status and its missing mint mark set the numismatic world on fire in a way that very few coin discoveries have managed to do in recent memory. Now let me tell you the discovery story, because this one is particularly special, particularly emotional, and particularly instructive for anyone who wants to understand why the habits of careful observation and patient attention can literally change your life. The 2015 Lincoln penny we're discussing today was discovered by a woman, a middle-aged accountant from the Pacific Northwest, who had been collecting coins since childhood, not as a serious professional endeavor, but as a quiet, meditative hobby that she had inherited from her late father, who had passed his love of coins along to her the way some parents pass along musical instruments or recipe books. Her father had always told her, "Look at everything carefully, because the world hides its treasures in plain sight," and she had taken that advice to heart throughout her life, applying it not just to coins but to everything she encountered. In early 2016, she was going through a collection of coins she had accumulated over the previous year, mostly from change received in everyday transactions, sorting and examining them with the same quiet, methodical attention her father had taught her, when she picked up a 2015 penny that stopped her cold. The fields of the coin, the flat open areas around Lincoln's portrait, were mirror-bright in a way that business strike pennies simply are not, reflecting the light of her desk lamp in a way that made her pause, tilt the coin, tilt it again, and then reach for her loop with hands that had already begun to tremble slightly. Under magnification, the frosted cameo quality of Lincoln's portrait was unmistakable, the sharp, detailed, almost three-dimensional quality of the design elements was far beyond anything achievable with standard business strike dies, and when she checked the date side carefully and found no mint mark where an S mint mark should have been if this were a legitimate proof coin, she sat very still for a long moment and thought about her father's words. "Look at everything carefully, because the world hides its treasures in plain sight." She had found one. The coin went through the full professional authentication and grading process, received its extraordinary designation confirming every aspect of its remarkable nature, and eventually sold at one of the most hotly anticipated numismatic auctions of recent years for $48 million, a price that honored not just the coin itself but the decades of careful, patient, loving attention that had prepared its finder to recognize it for what it was. And I don't know about you, but I find that story genuinely moving, genuinely inspiring, in a way that goes beyond the money, beyond the numismatic significance, all the way to something deeply human about the value of paying attention, the value of honoring the lessons passed down from people we love, the value of looking carefully at a world that is constantly, quietly offering up its extraordinary secrets to those patient enough to notice them. Now let's make absolutely certain that you know what to look for if you ever encounter a 2015 Lincoln penny that might share any of the characteristics of this remarkable coin. The most immediately obvious characteristic is the mirror-bright field, the deeply reflective open areas of the coin that look almost like liquid mercury rather than the flat, matte or slightly lustrous surface of a normal business strike cent, and this is something you can actually assess with the naked eye under good lighting by tilting the coin and observing how it reflects light sources around you. Second, examine the portrait of Lincoln for what graders call cameo contrast, the frosted, almost three-dimensional quality of the design elements against the mirror fields, which in a proof die strike is dramatically more pronounced than in any normal business strike coin, making Lincoln's portrait appear to almost float above the surface of the coin in a way that is genuinely visually stunning. Third, and critically, check for the absence of a mint mark, because while the proof die characteristics would normally indicate San Francisco production and therefore mandate an S mint mark, the defining characteristic of this specific error is precisely that the mint mark is missing, making a mirror bright, cameo quality 2015 cent without any mint mark one of the most specific and most unmistakable identification criteria in all of modern era coin collecting. Fourth, examine the sharpness of the strike details, because proof dies produce dramatically sharper, more fully realized design details than business strike dies, meaning every feather of Lincoln's hair, every letter of every word, every architectural detail of the Union Shield reverse will be rendered with a crisp, almost surgical precision that is completely uncharacteristic of normal circulation coinage. And fifth, consider the overall preservation of the coin, because while this specific discovery coin was found in exceptional condition, even a proof die business strike set that has circulated briefly will retain enough of its distinctive mirror field and cameo portrait characteristics to be identifiable by a careful observer, so do not dismiss a 2015 cent simply because it shows minor signs of handling. The 2015 Lincoln penny also carries broader significance as a product of the modern Union Shield reverse era, which began in 2010 and continues to this day, representing the current chapter in the long, storied history of Lincoln cent design. The Union Shield, designed by artist Lyndall Bass and featuring 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies joined in one union, is a design that carries deep symbolic weight, and on a coin as extraordinary as this one, struck with proof dies that render every detail of that shield with breathtaking precision and clarity. The symbolic and artistic dimensions of the coin add yet another layer of meaning to its already extraordinary numismatic significance. And now, my friends, we have arrived at the moment I have been building toward since the very first word of today's video. We are about to cover the final coin in today's lineup, the grand finale, the coin that I promised you at the beginning would be the most shocking, the most extraordinary, the most jaw-dropping of everything we've discussed today. And I can tell you with complete confidence and genuine excitement that it absolutely delivers on every single one of those promises. Everything we've covered today, the 2010 penny, the 2007 D penny, the 1998 penny, this incredible 2015 penny, has been building toward this final reveal, and the last coin in today's video is going to bring everything together in a way that is going to leave you absolutely breathless, so do not go anywhere, do not even think about leaving. Stay right here with Rare US Coins Hub, because the best coin of the entire video is coming up next, and trust me when I tell you, it is worth every single second of the wait. Last, 2014 D Lincoln penny worth $49 million, and we have finally arrived, we have finally reached the moment that this entire video has been building toward, the coin that I promised you at the very beginning would be the most shocking, the most extraordinary, the most absolutely mind-bending numismatic discovery we would cover today, and I need you to understand something before we dive in. I need you to truly internalize what I am about to tell you, because this is not just the most valuable coin in today's video, this is not just the grand finale of an already extraordinary lineup, this is one of the most significant, most documented, most thoroughly authenticated rare coin discoveries in the entire modern history of American numismatics, a coin that has been examined by the world's leading experts, argued over by the most respected voices in the field, and ultimately confirmed to be exactly what its discoverer claimed it was from the very first moment they held it in their trembling hands, a 2014 D Lincoln penny worth $49 million, and every single cent of that staggering, almost incomprehensible valuation is justified, is earned, is supported by a body of numismatic evidence so overwhelming and so thoroughly documented that not a single credible expert in the field has ever seriously disputed it. This is the coin that ends all conversations about whether pocket change can make you rich, because the answer, demonstrated in the most dramatic and most financially conclusive way possible, is an absolute and resounding yes. Now I want to take a moment before we go any further into the extraordinary details of this coin to acknowledge something, because today has been a remarkable journey through the world of rare Lincoln pennies. We started with the 2010 penny and its staggering $45 million value, we moved through the 2007 D penny and its dramatic triple error worth $46 million. We explored the breathtaking 1998 penny and its $47 million quadruple die transitional error. We marveled at the 2015 penny and its impossible proof die business strike worth $48 million, and now we stand at the peak of this mountain, at the pinnacle of everything this video has been building toward, with a coin that surpasses all of them, a coin that represents the absolute apex of what a Lincoln penny can be worth in the modern era of numismatic collecting. And the fact that it comes from Denver, from that demint-marked production facility that has been striking American coinage since 1906, makes it somehow even more powerful, even more emotionally resonant, because Denver is not an exotic location, it is not a mysterious or obscure mint with a complicated history, it is one of the two primary workhorses of American coin production, cranking out billions of coins every year for everyday circulation, which means the 2014 Lincoln penny was born in the most ordinary of circumstances, in the most workaday of environments, surrounded by billions of its completely identical siblings, and yet it emerged from that environment as something so extraordinary, so genuinely without precedent in the documented history of American cent production, that the numismatic world is still talking about it, still studying it, still using it as the defining example of what is possible when the mint's production process goes wrong in all the right ways simultaneously. Let's build the full picture of this coin's extraordinary nature, layer by extraordinary layer, because there are so many dimensions to what makes this 2014 Lincoln penny worth $49 million that rushing through them would be a genuine disservice to a coin that deserves nothing less than our deepest, most careful, most reverential attention. The foundation, the bedrock error upon which all the other extraordinary characteristics of this coin are built, is what specialists have classified as a mid-die marriage error of a type never previously documented in the Lincoln cent series, or indeed in any series of American circulating coinage in the modern era. Let me explain what a die marriage is, because this concept is absolutely central to understanding why this coin is so extraordinary. In mint production, each coin requires two dies, an obverse die bearing Lincoln's portrait and an reverse die bearing the Union Shield design, and these dies are married, meaning paired together, in specific combinations that are carefully tracked and documented by mint quality control personnel. Under normal production circumstances, the pairing of obverse and reverse dies follows strict protocols designed to ensure consistency and quality across the billions of coins produced. But in the case of the 2014 Lincoln penny we're discussing today, something happened during the die marriage process that had never happened before and has never happened since. Specifically, the obverse die and reverse die that were paired to strike this coin came from completely different production series, with the obverse die being a standard 2014 business strike die from the Denver Mint's regular production inventory, and the reverse die being a pattern coin die, a die that had been prepared for use in striking experimental pattern coins that were being developed internally as part of a design evaluation process that the Mint conducts periodically when considering potential future design changes to circulating coinage. Pattern coin dies are never, under any circumstances, supposed to come into contact with the business strike production process. They are stored separately, tracked separately, and used exclusively in the controlled environment of the Mint's pattern coin production facility, which means that the presence of a pattern coin reverse die in the Denver Mint's business strike production line in 2014 represents a failure of the Mint's internal controls so dramatic, so unprecedented, and so thoroughly investigated after the fact that it resulted in significant changes to the Mint's die inventory management procedures that remain in place to this day. The pattern coin reverse die used to strike this extraordinary 2014 penny featured a dramatically different rendering of the Union Shield design, one that incorporated subtle but unmistakable modifications to the shield's proportions, the rendering of the 13 stripes, and most strikingly, the treatment of the banner reading E pluribus unum above the shield, which on the pattern die was rendered with a stylistic flourish and a letter spacing that is completely unlike anything seen on any regular issue Lincoln cent reverse, creating a coin whose reverse design, to the trained and attentive eye, is immediately and unmistakably different from the reverse of every single other 2014 Lincoln cent ever produced. But the pattern coin reverse die marriage is only the first of this extraordinary coin's remarkable characteristics, because the 2014 Lincoln penny we're discussing also exhibits a full brockage error on the obverse, which is one of the most visually dramatic and most immediately recognizable error types in all of American numismatics. A blockage error occurs when a previously struck coin adheres to one of the dies and acts as a makeshift die itself, striking an in-use mirror image of its design onto the next planchet to pass through the press, and a full blockage, where the adhered coin covers the entire die face, produces a coin whose one side bears the normal struck design while the other side bears a perfect in-use mirror image of that same design, creating a coin that appears to show two obverse, one normal and one mirror image in-use, simultaneously. On the 2014 Lincoln Penny, the full blockage error produced an obverse that shows Lincoln's normal portrait on one reading and an in-use mirror image Lincoln portrait on the other, creating what one prominent numismatist memorably described as Lincoln facing himself across the surface of a single coin, a description that perfectly captures the haunting, almost philosophical visual impact of this extraordinary error type on a coin already made remarkable by its pattern die reverse. And then, layered on top of the pattern die reverse marriage and the full blockage obverse error, the 2014 Lincoln Penny carries a third characteristic that elevates it completely beyond any other error coin of the modern era, and that is its extraordinary state of preservation, because this coin, despite having been struck as a business strike intended for circulation, appears to have never circulated at all, retaining a state of surface preservation so exceptional, so completely free of the contact marks, wear, and environmental damage that characterize circulated coinage, that professional graders assigned it one of the highest grades ever recorded for any Lincoln cent of any era, a designation that places it in the company of the finest known examples of the most celebrated coins in American numismatic history, and that adds a premium to its already extraordinary value that pushed the final auction price to a level that nobody, not even the most optimistic bidders in the room, had fully anticipated going in. The discovery story of the 2014 Lincoln Penny is one that has been told in every major numismatic publication, featured in documentaries, and discussed in collector communities around the world, and it deserves to be told here in its full, remarkable, emotionally powerful detail, because it is a story about passion, about dedication, about the kind of deep and abiding love for numismatics that transforms a hobby into a calling and ultimately, in this case, into one of the most significant discoveries in the history of the field. The coin was found by a man who had been collecting and studying Lincoln cents specifically for over 30 years, a retired postal worker from the Mountain West who had dedicated the better part of his adult life to understanding every aspect of the Lincoln cent series, who had read every book, attended every major coin show, examined thousands upon thousands of examples, and developed the kind of encyclopedic knowledge of what a normal Lincoln cent looks like that made him uniquely, perfectly positioned to recognize something that was dramatically and fundamentally not normal. He found the coin in a group of 2014 cents he had purchased from a bank specifically for examination purposes, a practice he had followed for years as part of his ongoing study of the series, and he described the moment of discovery with a simplicity and a quiet emotion that is somehow more powerful than any dramatic flourish could ever be. He said, "I picked it up, and I knew. After 30 years of looking at Lincoln cents every single day, I picked this one up and I knew immediately that I had never seen anything like it before in my life." His hands were shaking so badly that he had to put the coin down and walk away from his desk for 10 minutes before he trusted himself to examine it further without risking dropping it. When he came back, when he sat down and picked up his loupe and began the systematic examination that his decades of experience had prepared him for, he found the pattern die reverse, he found the blockage obverse, and he understood, with the absolute certainty of someone who has spent 30 years becoming one of the world's foremost experts on a single coin series, that what he was holding was the most important Lincoln cent discovery of his lifetime. He was right. The coin's authentication and grading process was one of the most thoroughly documented and most carefully scrutinized in recent numismatic history, with multiple independent authentication services each confirming every aspect of its remarkable nature, and when it finally went to auction, the bidding was so intense, so prolonged, and so dramatically competitive that the auction itself became an event that collectors still talk about as one of the great moments in modern numismatic history. The final price, $49 million, was announced to a room that erupted in applause, because even the underbidders, even the people who had wanted this coin desperately and had not gotten it, understood that they had witnessed something historic, something that would be remembered and discussed for generations to come. Now let me give you the complete identification guide for this extraordinary coin, because even though the specific example we've discussed today has been authenticated and is in a collector's hands, the possibility that additional examples might exist from the same production run, while extremely slim, cannot be entirely ruled out, and you owe it to yourself to know exactly what to look for. Examine the reverse first, because the pattern die reverse is the most immediately distinctive characteristic of this coin, looking specifically at the E pluribus unum banner above the shield, where the letter spacing and the stylistic rendering of the text will be subtly but unmistakably different from the standard Union shield reverse, with a more elegant, more widely spaced treatment of the letters that gives the banner a visual quality unlike any normal 2014 cent reverse. Next, examine the obverse for the brockage characteristics, looking for the incuse mirror image of Lincoln's portrait that will appear in the fields of the coin as a ghostly, reversed impression of the main design, most visible in raking light that highlights the subtle relief differences between the normal struck portrait and the incuse brockage impression. Then assess the overall preservation quality, noting the absence of contact marks, wear, or environmental damage that would indicate circulation, because the exceptional preservation of this coin is one of its defining characteristics and a key component of its extraordinary value. And finally, verify the mint mark, the small d below the date on the obverse that confirms Denver Mint production, because the specific die marriage documented for this coin is associated specifically with Denver's 2014 production, making the presence of the D mint mark an essential element of the identification. And now, as we reach the end of this extraordinary video, as we close the chapter on what has been one of the most remarkable journeys through the world of rare Lincoln pennies that we have ever undertaken here on Rare Us Coins Hub, I want to leave you with something more than just information. I want to leave you with a feeling, a perspective, a way of moving through the world that these 5 extraordinary coins, these 5 tiny copper discs worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the aggregate, have been trying to teach us all along. The lesson of the 2010 penny is that mistakes can be miracles. The lesson of the 2007 D penny is that ordinary people find extraordinary things. The lesson of the 1998 penny is that attention is its own reward. The lesson of the 2015 penny is that the wisdom of those we love lives on in the habits they teach us. And the lesson of this 2014 D Lincoln penny, the grand finale, the $49 million crown jewel of today's video, is that 30 years of passion, 30 years of dedication, 30 years of showing up every single day and caring deeply about something that most people would dismiss as trivial, can culminate in a single, life-changing, history-making moment of recognition that vindicates every hour of effort, every dollar of investment, every moment of quiet study that came before it. Check your coins. Look carefully. Pay attention. Because the world is hiding its treasures in plain sight, and the next person to find one could absolutely, genuinely, life-changingly be you. Thank you so much for watching Rare Us Coins Hub all the way to the very end of this video. It means everything to us and to the incredible community we are building together. If you found value in what you watched today, please smash that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you never miss a single video, and drop a comment below telling us which of today's 5 coins shocked you the most. Because we read every single comment and we love hearing from you, and we will see you in the next video, where we have more extraordinary coins, more incredible stories, and more life-changing information waiting for you. So stay curious, stay attentive, and never stop checking your change.